Dear friends, beware of what you wish in life, and what if you wish that your picture should start aging instead of you? Have you ever realized? Well, today, on this particular theme, we have taken a title called The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. It is an unearthly theme and a totally offbeat book. I had read it long time back, but let me tell you, the story doesn't go out of you. And it all starts on a pleasing summer day of the Victorian era England, where Lord Henry Wotton, a dogmatic personality, is attentively observing the astute artist. His name is Basil Hallward, while he is painting a portrait of young and handsome Dorian Gray. So Dorian Gray is in fact Basil's ultimate muse. Now, while Dorian is posing for this particular portrait, Lord Henry is making a lot of comments about sensuality, about enjoying life, and in the process he gives his introduction as a hedonistic personality, and he tries and gives a bird's eye view on sensuality and pleasure. So all this Dorian is hearing, and he's also concentrating on the portrait that the artist Basil is making for him. But somewhere down the line, Dorian starts thinking that if sensuality and enjoyment, what you call hedonistic pursuits, are so important in life, then why not I indulge in it thoroughly? And in the process, he wishes that, boss, what can it so happen that instead of me, my portrait starts aging? So this is the wish he is making, that instead of him, his portrait should start aging. So anyway, this thing continues for a while, and when the portrait is done, Dorian really thinks of enjoying life to the hilt. So he discovers one Sybil Vane. Now Sybil Vane is a girl who performs in Shakespeare's plays in those dingy small working class theatres, and Dorian immediately approaches her, starts courting her, and after a little while even proposes marriage, to which Sybil Vane is very excited and enamored, and she thinks that it's the best opportunity for her in life, and she too soon starts calling him Prince Charming. Now this is an important word in this novel, Prince Charming. And she soon swoons with the ecstasy of being loved by such a handsome person. But Sybil Vane has an overprotective brother. His name is James Vane, who doesn't like this relationship, and he warns Sybil many times that as long as you're okay with him, it's fine, but otherwise if he tries to harm you, I'm going to murder him. So life continues. Dorian one day invites Lord Henry and Basil, the artist, to come and see a show of Sybil Vane, where she is acting like in a play called Romeo and Juliet. But Sybil that day is too enamored with Dorian's love, and in front of Lord Henry and Basil, her acting is not very good. She doesn't perform well, which makes Lord Henry and this chap, the artist Basil, think that Dorian is in love with this girl more because of her looks than her talent. So this upsets Dorian quite a lot, and he rejects Sybil, saying that your only beauty is your acting, and if your acting is not good, you're no more beautiful for me. So I'm leaving you and going. And then he comes home. But when he reaches home, he finds a sneer of cruelty in his portrait, and that goes to show that his wish has come true, that whatever he is thinking is now reflecting on the portrait. And very soon Lord Henry calls him and says, then he thinks that he should rectify the situation and go and get Sybil Vane once again and patch up with her. But soon he gets a call from Lord Henry, who says that you are late because Sybil Vane has swallowed prussic acid and committed suicide. So this upsets Dorian, but he now understands where his life is heading to. Perhaps good looks and lust shall suffice. So Dorian locks up that portrait, and over the next 18 years, he experiments with every kind of enjoyment, rather every kind of vice, and his vices are influenced by a morally poisonous French novel that was given to him by Lord Henry. So all this continues in life, but one day before Basil Hallward, before leaving for Paris, he is very upset and he comes to meet Dorian, and he questions him on the rumors of his self-indulgent voluptuary, to which Dorian says yes. He doesn't deny his debauchery and says, yes, I have been into all this. So Basil says that enough is enough. Why don't you now leave everything and just come back to your old self and apologize in life for whatever you've done. And then Basil wants to see the portrait. So Dorian opens that locked room and he takes him inside. And when he sees the portrait, he is aghast. It has become hideous. Dorian is looking hideous in that. And Basil verifies the portrait. It is the same but through his signatures, because in every portrait that Basil made, he used to emboss his signature. So it is the same portrait in which now Dorian is looking hideous. So this upsets Dorian quite a lot, and then what he does is he pulls out a knife. But before that, he blames Basil for everything that has gone wrong in his life, and then with that knife he murders Basil, and then he locks the room and he gets in touch with one of his old scientist friends by the name of Alan Campbell, whom he blackmails into coming and dissolving this particular body, and so that Dorian can get rid of Basil. But then the scientist is able to do that job, but he kills himself over the deed because he feels extremely guilty. But in the process, what has happened is Dorian has killed both Basil and Alan Campbell, and he is now free to do whatever he feels like. But that element of guilt is there in him, so he goes to an opium den, and just to get out of that guilt. And when he is relaxing there, there is this James Vane also unknowingly in that particular opium den. Now James Vane is the brother of Sybil Vane, as I had told you earlier. So James Vane hears someone calling out somebody by the name of Prince Charming. And that reminds him that Sybil used to call Dorian by this particular name. So he immediately rushes to that person and he catches hold of Dorian Gray and says, "You are the person who had killed my sister. Now I'm not going to leave you." But Dorian says, "Look at my face. I am so young and Sybil died 18 years back. Do you think I would have killed her?" So this convinces James Vane, and he relents and releases him. And just then Dorian thinks of leaving, but immediately a lady reproaches James Vane and says that, "Why did you leave Dorian? He is the guy who had killed your sister, and you have just gone and left him." James says, "Well, I didn't know. He said that he's quite young and Sybil had died some 18 years back." So anyway, that lady convinces James Vane that this particular person who looks so young is the Dorian Gray, and you should go and kill him because he's the killer of your sister. So after that, James Vane starts stalking this Dorian Gray. But sadly, one day what happens is when he's out somewhere, there is a shooting party going on, and James was lurking around some thicket where a shooter accidentally kills him. So his story gets over there. Yes. Soon, on returning to London, Dorian gets in touch with Lord Henry. On returning to London, Dorian tells Lord Henry about his new probity which begins, and he also talks about his new love, new romantic interest. Her name is Hetty Merton. And then he thinks that for some time he's been doing some good deeds, and that will have a reversal effect on his hideous portrait. So then he goes and sees his portrait once again, thinking that with all the crimes, with all the vices, after all the crimes and after all the vices, he is now sobered down, and that should have a corrective action on his particular portrait. But when he opens the door and gets inside and lifts the portrait, he sees it has become even more hideous, and all this little spells of goodness that he has shown around has not made any effect. So he needs to do something very, very solid about his becoming a good man. And so Dorian gets very, very, very upset again, and he thinks that this portrait is the last vestige of his or evidence remaining about his vices. So he should destroy this particular portrait. And then he picks up the same knife with which he had murdered Basil Hallward, and he stabs the picture. And once he does that, there is the servants below and the passers-by. They hear some kind of a funny cry, a person, loud cry. A person is crying, so the servants also get up and the passers-by also get up, and but the passers-by in fact call the police that there is someone who's making loud, who's wailing and crying in this particular house. So the police come and they break open the door of that particular room, and where they find a old dead person. His face and figure are withered and decrepit, and he's just lying there. And soon the servants also rush in there, but nobody is able to recognize this particular old man. But then the servants look at the ring on one of the fingers, which makes them connect that this particular person is actually their master, Dorian Gray, who is now dead, and somebody has stabbed him, or he's got wounds. He's just lying dead there. And besides him is the picture of Dorian Gray restored to its original beauty. So friends, this is what happens if you wish wrongly, like Dorian Gray, who has killed himself finally to get out of that curse. And when he has got out of that curse, his picture has been restored to a beautiful originality. The idea of this novel is, Oscar Wilde has said, don't look for any reason in this particular novel. And novels are always either good or bad. They are not in between. So if you ask me, it's a very, very offbeat thought, but it's got a sense of its own. And I'm sure if you pick up this novel, and also it is one of the most elegantly written novel that I've read, and even the critics say so. So friends, if you've liked this particular story, kindly share it. It's a very interesting story, even when it's a little eerie. So share it, subscribe to our channel. Soon we'll be coming out with another book. Thank you and goodbye.